Good.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for coming out to District 2's community budget session. My name is Leo Jaffe. I'm a budget and management analyst with the Budget and Evaluation Department. With me tonight, I have Tracy Nash, who's a senior budget and management analyst. I have John Decker, who is our budget director. And we have Tiffany Jones, who is our assistant budget director. So tonight's agenda, we're going to be going over a welcome and opening remarks, a District 2 update from City of Greensboro. We're going to go over budget highlights and kind of an overview of the budget development process. Then we'll dive into a strategic priorities overview, and then we'll open the floor to comments and questions. I'll now turn it over to Councilwoman Wells for an introduction.
Well, good evening to all of you. I'm so glad to see you here at this session. And I appreciate the finance department for coming to share in each district so that you will have input. You can listen and learn and then have input. So how many of you live in District 2? Very good, very good. So I'm glad that you are here to hear about your district. We want to improve things, and so we're interested in hearing from you, and I hope by the end of the session you'll have some of your questions answered and you'll have a bit more knowledge about how the budget is built for the City of Greensboro. Thanks for being here in this rainy weather.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I will also turn it over to Jackie Boone, who would create Greensboro for a District 2 update.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm Jackie Boone. I'm the Chief Creative Economy Officer for Creative Greensboro, which is the city's Office for Art and Culture. I just wanted to share some updates with you, what we've been doing in your district specifically, and give you a quick overview of who we are and how we began. So in 2018, City Council adopted a cultural master plan, a 10-year plan for the creative sector. And in that plan, we had 22 priorities. And some of the priorities really focused on community development, really allowing us to have creative and artistic opportunities in programming where in communities that were typically underinvested or we didn't have them. Creative Greensboro's mission is to really provide artistic experiences to everyone. You shouldn't have to go downtown to experience art and culture. Beauty should be everywhere within every street of Greensboro. So some of those priorities really focused on specific neighborhoods, and I'm going to focus on what we've done in District 2. To date, Creative Greensboro has invested nearly $100,000 in District 2 neighborhoods, okay? Neighborhood arts programming partners. It partners with neighborhoods and implements a shared leadership model that allows city agencies, institutions, and residents to come together as joint laborers and leaders in neighborhood advancement. So we've done a lot of work, and I want to specifically talk about Kings Forrest first. In 2021, our Neighborhood Arts Residency Program, we supported artist Sunny Gravely Fauci. She designed and painted 6 sidewalk portrait murals of significant residents of the Kings Forest neighborhood. Our very own Councilwoman Wells is a King Forest icon. Through Neighborhood Arts curated programming, Sunny also created beautification projects in Kings Park, which included painting picnic benches and basketball court murals, and also a sidewalk circling the park. In 2022, she also created a coloring book of notable neighbors from the Kings Forest community and invited adults and kids to come out and participate. It's all about community investment and allowing community members to be leaders in what type of art comes to their community. And Creative Greensboro partnered with the Piedmont Blues Preservation Society for their monthly blues and food markets concert series that took place in September and October of 2022, and again in 2023, right here at the Renaissance Shopping Center, right outside on the lawn. And as a partner, we also hosted art making workshops inside this library for youth and for children. Currently this year, we're continuing in our neighborhood arts curated programming in the Mill District, working with artist in resident Chuck Johnson, who will be highlighting the experience of mill workers in East White Oak and connecting with the history of the mill district. The plan now is to transform one of the spaces into a combined storage art studio usable space for artists and residents to come. And the last program that we have is called Creative Allies. It's a brand new program. This program is designed to align artists, community members, and city agencies. So we're asking for an artist to work with city departments to address a community concern in specific neighborhoods. We're focusing with King's Forrest, and we're working with the city departments of neighborhood development and human rights. So again, our whole mission and focus and purpose is to really beautify, edify your neighborhoods. We love having you as community partners. We're looking forward to partnering with you in the future. So thank you, and let's continue to grow together and make Greensboro more vibrant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jackie. I also want to recognize that one of our at-large members is present tonight, Mary Kay Abdulator. Thank you for being here tonight. So we're going to transition and talk about the budget development process as well as what makes up the budget. So what is a budget? A budget is a proposed plan for raising and spending money for specific programs, functions, and city services, as well as activities or objectives during a fiscal year. A fiscal year runs from July 1st to June 30th. It not only is that, it is also a planning, management, and communications tool. And on this slide here, you can see there are 4 primary functions of a budget. It essentially expresses the priorities of the governing board. It projects future financing issues. It provides some regulatory measures, and it ensures accountability, transparency, and communication to the public. Now we're going to play a short video that kind of overviews and provides a snapshot of kind of what the budget development process looks like in a different format.
Welcome to the City of Greensboro's budget process. Let's learn how our city government prepares its annual operating budget. A city budget is a proposed plan for how we will raise and spend money throughout the fiscal year. It determines the city's property tax rate and is a critical task that shapes the future of our community. In Greensboro, about 40% of the city's revenue come from sales and property taxes. Another 30% comes from user charges, such as water, parking fees. The remaining funds come from various sources, including state and federal government grants. A little more than 40% of the city's expenses are for personnel. It takes some 3,300 people to support all the city's operations, from police to parks, waste collection to water service. The budget also covers operational costs, such as materials for treating our water supply and for filling potholes. The city also sets aside funds to pay down its debt, supporting the 10-year capital improvement program, which plans for more expensive projects like new buildings, fire trucks, and stormwater improvements. Here's how the City of Greensboro budget is developed. By law, municipal governments in North Carolina must adopt a balanced budget every year. The city's fiscal year begins on July 1st, but budget development begins months in advance. In the fall, the city's budget and finance officials begin reviewing forecasts to help look for changes in the economy that may impact the city's funding sources. Over the winter, city departments review their work plans for the coming year and submit service enhancement requests. These are essentially requests for additional funds to add new services or employees in the coming year. During this time, the City Council also meets to establish its budget priorities, which it expresses through policy decisions, budget guidelines, and recommendations. These priorities represent council members' values and aspirations of our community, and they are the guideposts the city manager and budget officers will use to further develop the budget. Throughout the spring, departments will present their proposed budgets for review. They will also review the capital improvements plan. After months of deliberations, in May, the city manager presents a recommended budget to council members. Then it's time for city council members to have more detailed discussions about their goals and priorities. By law, local governments must provide a public hearing on the budget. This time allows the public to give council and the city manager feedback on the presented budget. The fiscal year 2024-25 budget public hearing is scheduled for June 4th, 2024. Finally, the council will adopt the budget in June, just in time for the new fiscal year to begin in July. The council will also adopt a new capital improvements program, set the property tax rate, and adopt any new or adjusted fees during that same meeting. Want to try your hand at creating a city budget? Try the Balancing Act game, where you get to set your priorities based on the real city budget figures. Remember, your voice matters. Let your council members know how you want to see the city spend its money. Check out the city budget and the capital improvements program and play the Balancing Act, all at greensboro-nc.gov/budget.
Next time, are you gonna wear the same outfit you got from
If I had better style. So I'm glad you all enjoyed our video. We put a lot of work into it. So in addition to the annual budget development process that you just saw outlined here, we also do other changes in other responsibilities in our office, such as budget adjustments and amendments, because needs will evolve over time, and just because we have this plan, it's flexible enough where we can make changes to accommodate those needs. In addition to that, we also will review mid-year position changes and departmental reorganizations, all part of that aligning to strategic goals and direction. On top of all that, we also provide data analysis to departments as well as conduct management studies as well. And all this is done so that we are more data informed when we are making decisions. So what city services does Greensboro provide? Well, we break it out into 4 distinct service areas. Those being public safety, which includes police, fire, and Guilford Metro 911, community services such as parks and recreation, libraries, infrastructure, which includes water resources, which are for water and sewer, transportation such as street maintenance, and general government, which is more of the inner workings of the overall government, which includes people and culture, which is City of Greensboro's Human Resources Department, IT, and our Finance Department. However, not all these services here are paid from the same pot of money, and we'll get into that. So I'm going to break it down that the city provides many services, but the services that we don't provide are covered by the county, and the two of them work together. And break out here, cities provide streets, sidewalks, and traffic engineering, just to name a few, and counties will provide social services, public health, and public schools. However, the two will work in tandem with each other for things such as parks, economic development, law enforcement, and inspections. And for Guilford County specifically, this is a list of some of the services they provide, such as the Sheriff's Office, Veteran Services, Animal Services, and elections. So let's look at the budget itself. So all city funds are not the same. The total operating budget for the fiscal year 2023 to 2024 was $751.3 million. That is broken down to 5 distinct buckets: the general fund, enterprise funds, internal service funds, debt service fund, and special revenue funds. And we'll just go through them real quickly. The general fund is used to provide for basic city services and functions. These include police, fire, transportation, just to name a few of them. The enterprise funds are more focused, they operate more as their own business. So the activities are financed and operated in a manner similar to private business enterprises, where the expenses providing the service are financed primarily through their user fees that they're charging. So examples of that include the Greensboro Area Transit Agency Fund and the Water Resources Fund. Internal service funds are, like the name suggests, are internal. They are financing goods or services provided by one department to other departments within the same government itself. An example of that is our print shop in government. So, for example, for budget, if we need our, let's just say our budget and brief document, which is available to look at, we will essentially be charged an amount to print that out. So that is kind of how that works. It works on a cost reimbursement basis. Moving along, our debt service fund is used to account for resources dedicated to the payment of principal and interest on general long-term debt. While there are current revenues that provide funding for some capital projects, most are funded through the issuance of general obligation bonds. And these bonds must be paid on an annual principal and interest payments. And the last one that we have is special revenue funds. These are tailored to specific revenue sources, and they have a specific purpose. And an example of that is like the Cemeteries Fund and the Nussbaum Housing Partnership Revolving Fund. Also included here are the special project funds. They are not included in the operating budget. Most of them aren't. And they represent a variety of revenue sources, and they can fund a wide array of city projects. So how much do these services cost? So looking at the total budget, not the general fund, just the total budget overall is $751.3 million budget. Infrastructure makes up the large proportion of that, and that's largely driven by the water and sewer funding. The next biggest category is public safety at 25%, and that's roughly $190 million. So looking at the total budget again, where does the money come from in terms of revenue? Well, it's broken out here, but user fees and charges, which are, again, going back to the water and sewer example, those are the water rates, fees that you are charged for services. And that's 30 cents on a dollar. And again, I forgot to mention, we are simplifying this down to $1 just to make it more digestible. And the next biggest category is property taxes, which is 27 cents. And then the third largest category is other revenue, which is largely grant funding and other sources, which makes up 22 cents on the dollar. So how much do these services cost for the general fund? So we're going to zoom in a little bit at which represents almost $404 million, which is roughly about 53% of the total operating budget. And here's a very different story. The largest percentage is public safety, which is 45% as the major cost driver for that. So the largest cost driver for the general fund is public safety, and the largest cost driver for the overall total budget is infrastructure. So looking at the general fund again, where does the money come from? So it's a very different story. 59 cents on the dollar comes from property tax. Sales taxes makes up 17 cents of that, and intergovernmental revenue makes up 11 cents on the dollar. And intergovernmental revenue is usually money that is received from the county for certain services that both city and county residents take advantage of, and a good example of that is libraries. So the city property tax rate increased by 4 cents this fiscal year to 67.25 cents per $100 of property valuation. The last tax rate decrease was last year by 3 cents. And the county collects, and this gets back to the separation of roles between the city and county. One of the functions of the county is collecting tax revenue for all municipalities, and then they give the cities a portion of that tax revenue. They also determine when revaluations take place, with the last one being January 2022, and the next one will take place in 2026 to become effective in fiscal year 2027. So let's switch gears and we'll talk about the strategic priorities overview. So the strategic framework, which for some of you who have been to the District 1 meeting, this might be familiar with you. I know our council members are very familiar with this as well. It provides a 5-year focus on a set of priorities. It also utilizes existing departmental plans, organizational goals, and community feedback to kind of serve as the basis or foundation for each of those priorities. So essentially, we're not starting from scratch. We're starting from what already exists and building upon that in a very strategic-driven direction. And examples of those existing plans include the GSO 2040 Comprehensive Plan, the Housing GSO Plan, Plan to Play for Parks and Rec, and Go Borough 2025. And many of these plans are very future-focused. They're 20 years out, but this framework will show a 5-year progress across all those plans. And a 5-year time horizon helps us connect the annual budget to our long-range plans so that our budget is being led with strategy and vision. So let's recap real quick from what District 2 put down here. So it looks like our number 1 priority is abundance of attainable housing. And an example of what the city is currently striving towards to support that initiative is our Housing Neighborhood Development Department has leveraged various bond funds to help build affordable units in the community. And it looks like our second largest is youth sports capital. And an example of what the city is doing to invest in that is they are investing in the Bryan Park Soccer Complex to host national youth tournaments. And it looks like Safest City, yeah. The Safest City, one of the big ticket items that kind of been showing that we're investing into that category is the investment in police starting pay. We raised their starting salary up to increase recruitment and retention. So I feel like I kind of flew through it. But thank you all for attending today's session. We have 3 more sessions scheduled in March, with the next one being in District 3 on March 12th at 5 p.m. at the Lewis Recreation Center. You do not need to be part of that district to attend, but just know that that session will be tailored to that individual district. To kind of give a timeline of the budget process, May 14, 2024, the city manager will propose his recommended budget. After that, on Tuesday, June 4th, we will have a public hearing. And then on June 18th, we'll hope to have the budget adopted. You may sign up to speak at a meeting by 6 p.m. the night of that meeting outside the Katie Dorsett Council Chamber using a designated kiosk, and all these meetings are at the Melvin Municipal Office Building, the Katie Dorsett Council Chamber. We strongly encourage you all to come out and speak, to have your voices heard. It is something that we take a lot of pride in. Now, before I open the floor up, just a couple of ground rules. We'll only have about 30 minutes for questions, so please limit your questions to about 2 minutes so that multiple people can have their opportunity to speak. And please come to the mic at the front so that we can hear you. And just know that any questions not budget related or questions we're unable to answer tonight will be noted here and we'll place on a Q&A section on our website. Now I'll open up the floor.
Peace. I'm just talking about the budget and putting some money toward the homeless situation here in Gilbert County. I'm currently homeless since eviction was brought on me by Renzi Properties, and my mind is just on a whole lot of different issues. But I ain't letting the homeless slow me down. I don't come from no handout. I ain't begging. I got 2 jobs, 746 credit score, car outside, yet I'm homeless. And I see all this money going to Ukraine, Israel, and everywhere else, and that kind of bothers me. When the money to the city, and we all putting up there for the housing, this is a great thing, but the city is not going to be safe with all this homeless. I'm going to keep that 100%, so everybody understand, ain't nowhere in this city going to be safe with this much homeless and despair and no empathy toward those that got less than you. As long as you got that view that you all right in your neighborhood is safe, trust me. I repeat, I got a car. A lot of people out here with cars and vehicles that's homeless, and they wake up upset, mad, and then you can't really lay in your car because somebody tapped you on your window, ask you how you doing, knowing my tags is correct. Because I know before I went to sleep, I paid the AAA. But my point being, as long as you got the situation with the lack of homes and affordable homes, I can't even get one of them little pallets. Try to get there, they gave me so much runaround, I don't even try. But my point being, as long as we got the situation where the homeless and the money can go towards the people that really need it, and not have the people that having a debate where like you want to remodel a motel out, you got money to go do a soccer stadium, all that money for a soccer stadium, and you got all these people right there downtown Greensboro that's homeless of all races, all genders, and it's getting worse. And my thing is, when I say it's getting worse for the homeless, it's getting worse for the city, because if you homeless, the only thing you got is respect and pride, and with that comes nobody can disrespect nobody, because if you disrespect somebody, it can cause council Christmas. And I'll close on that. So just work on some money towards the homeless and the safety of it. I wish I could talk longer, but I got to get back here for myself for their ministry.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Evelyn Smith, and I've been a proud resident of District 2 for almost 24 years. I'm here because I recently learned that our county had 16,000 people who faced eviction in 2022, and I find that appalling and inexcusable, and as the gentleman just said, where are our priorities? I mean, this is no way to conduct our city and our county. We need to do better. people say, well, people are facing eviction because they get behind on their rent, and that's because they're not managing their money well. But we all know, we've all seen the statistics and the stories that rents have gone up sky high, just astronomically and unexpectedly, and people face these new expenses, and you're not making enough to make ends meet. What are you supposed to do? So it's really, I feel, the role of the city government to be able to step in and make a difference. And I would like to know what part of the budget coming up is allocated specifically to help people to be prevented from becoming homelessness through eviction.
Is, can anything be done by, District 2, by you to kind of put a cap on rent increases? I currently live in affordable housing, and Wind Hill, actually, they are right now renovating Wind Hill. So in my particular section, and Wind Hill was built in the 2000s, but my particular section was the first area built. So they want to renovate, and they want to do this by July. So for me and my daughter, we are being forced to leave where we live, even though we pay rent and do all of that stuff. We're not sure right now if we're going to be placed within Wind Hill itself. I mean, it's completely packed as far as residents, but they're moving some residents out, so we're not sure if we're going to be placed in a unit there. All of that is still being negotiated, discussed by affordable housing. So my question is, once these renovations take place, are they going to increase the rent? Because right now, what I'm paying is affordable. And most places in Greensboro, you have to have 3 times the income. And I'm also on disability, and I'm working the maximum amount that I can work while being a disabled individual. With disability, there's a cap on that. And that cap, unfortunately, is it's hard to find a place to rent that's going to be 3 times the amount that I'm making. So that's my main question there, because I don't want to be homeless either. I don't want my daughter and I to be homeless. I experienced that in 2020. So I don't want to experience that again. And then along with homelessness, with someone being homeless, there's all kinds of things that they face. Some people go through mental illness issues. Some people go through substance abuse issues. Fortunately, I didn't experience too much of that, maybe some depression in 2020, but I was displaced. But being at Wind Hill, I really was happy that I could afford the rent, and I thought it was going to be pretty much stable for the years to come until this happened. So I've only been at Wind Hill 2.5 years, and so just found out that they're going to be renovating, and what are we going to do? So, and then after they renovate, are they going to increase the rent? Which is likely a possibility with the way things have been trending.
I can answer the question about whether we, the city, can do anything about the rent increase, and we cannot. It's legislated in Raleigh. All of us on council would like to be able to put a cap and say what percentage it could be raised, and because we know that this will be a cause for some people to be evicted or homeless, and we want to avoid that. But it has to be changed in Raleigh. So you can talk to the legislators who through the governing down there, and then we can do something here. But it's beyond us at this point.
member, and I live in District 2. And I know that in the past, 2,600 people received rental assistance with federal money from the city. Is there any part of this upcoming budget that will help families struggling with the high cost of housing across the city and work to prevent evictions?
It looked like to me on the screen, the only way that we can, of course, we have a part of neighborhood development, but grants, some projects and agencies have been able to get grants to help them. And because you're here tonight and because you're voicing your opinion, when the budget is built, this can be taken into consideration, that maybe someplace that we've had 1%, we could raise it to 2%. I'm just using, but that we will consider it. And I'm sure you're going to hear this in more than one of the districts. So that means that we'll have to address it as council members.
Are there any other questions or comments that anyone would like to make?
Eric Woodard, District 2, been here 30 years. District 2, 10 years. But as far as the any proposals or anything that any initiatives or anything that are voiced through these meetings, and should the city council take any of these initiatives up, what kind of is there like a process in place in which we can continue to check on those things, or just tune in to all the city council meetings and I guess make our voices known at those meetings, sign up, and I think we have to sign up there in advance and just learn the process, basically, I guess.
That's it. And I'm always available. I give everybody my telephone number, and I'm the liaison between council and you, so I take your calls and I do what I can to see about it. So these meetings, when your voices are heard, we have to listen, and you know when you hear it has an effect on what we do. But you can always come down the first Monday night of the month, and that's all we do is listen to comments. Some of these people have been there several times, so you come and make your voice heard.
First Tuesday.
Hello, everybody. So I'm Kay Brown. I live here in District 2. And I'm a current NAACP president for the Greensboro branch. And as y'all can see, also in solidarity with the work that y'all are doing on housing. So thank y'all for that. But I do want to make mention and kind of ask a question. When we talk about public safety, oftentimes people stop with policing, but a lot of work has been done around building out an Office of Community Safety and to talk about some of those alternatives. And so some of the concerns that people have brought to me is, are we properly, post-George Floyd, post-2020, are we properly resourcing that body of work and those alternatives to police and keep us safe? And then furthermore, when we talk about, though Bryant Park is it's nice, I think about kids in community, right? And how many spaces do we have in community that these kids can walk to that has programming that can keep them out of trouble, right? So if the kids down the street, how much do we have happening here so that they can have something positive and productive to do? So I know a lot of work, a lot of coordination is going on, but would like to know what we're doing about investing in that.
We invested quite a bit in the library program and in the Parks and Rec. We have over at the Recreation Center, we received a $250,000 grant. So the building, and if you've had a tour to see the grounds have been changed, and there's a mural on the wall, and there are also programs that go on here that each month there's a list of all the programs that happen here at the library. So there are a lot of activities. We do have a problem sometimes in getting folks to come to the things that are offered. That's one of the concerns that I have. There's more offered more offered than what's being used, because the people who work for the city, I know with the library and the Parks and Rec, they worked hard in upgrading things here in this part. Now I know we live all over District 2, but there are parks all over. Greensboro has more parks than most any city in, I know in North Carolina, and we rank high in the country. So we do have the amenities, but our citizens need to take advantage.
Yeah, I'll also add to most of the departmental strategic plans, such as for Parks and Recreation, like Goldie was referring to, do take into account being the most connected city on how to create additional programming within, again, Parks and Recreation and libraries. Are actively working right now to develop more and more different types of programs to reach broader and broader audiences who historically weren't addressed before. So they are making strides in that direction.
This really doesn't have much to do with the budget, but Dr. Wells, I wanted to thank you for standing with us regarding the grocery store on South Elm. And I hope that you will be as vehement as you have been, because as you know, there are certain proposals right now that want to give us another, some lazy proposal that wants to give us maybe a farmer's market. Anyway, we don't need any more Family Dollars. We don't need any more Dollar General. What we need is a real grocery store with fresh food, not just once a week, but every day. So we know these various proposals, but we just wanted not only to thank you, I wanted to thank you, but that the neighborhood needs a grocery store more than a parking spot, for one guy. So thank you for standing with us, and I hope that you will stand firm in demanding that we get fresh food in what is, that notorious food desert. Thank you.
So I just want to tack on to what is the city going to spend in the budget for preventing evictions, just because we know that the county used ARPA money to fund a TEAMS project, which is tenants, education, advocacy, mediation with UNCG and with legal aid. So they have a table at the courthouse 2 times a week, or 2 days a week total. But evictions are 4 days a week. And so we know that when TEAMS was created, they asked the county for $2+ million, and they asked the city for $2+ million. The county gave, so that gave them the 2 days here, and then also in High Point. But because they didn't get the other $2+ million, they are only able to be there for those 2 days, not the 4 days that they wanted. And in those 2 days, they have been able to reduce evictions by at least 30%, which means it's working. Which means that if we increase the amount of money that we put into that program, into the legal aid itself, making sure that every tenant that is facing eviction has legal representation, we might be able to, we know that we would be able to decrease the flow of people going into homelessness. In the U.S., we've seen homelessness go up 12%, and that's not unique here. We are seeing this in real time, and we've heard people talk about rent going up. I know we can't do anything about rent, capping the rent, that is state, but we can put ordinances in place to make sure that there is funding for people to get legal representation. And so I'm hoping that as we continue to come to the town halls and talk about this, that it will be seriously considered in the budget.
As I said again, you saw the illustration on the screen. You see where the money goes. And that circle down at the bottom where we've got, it's like your budget, your discretionary funds. That's what we'll try to see if some of these services could be increased. I talked to Ms. Norris about the program. because I wasn't familiar until you called last night. So I talked to her about it, and she really would like to do more mediation. She said before people get into the situation of being evicted, that they need more mediation. And so she said, yes, money would help them with increasing services, but she focused mostly on let's try to get them, talk to them, give them some skills, give them some information, give them some education so that they don't fall into it. But we will consider that, and because you've been at last meeting and this one, you know that it's on the list. And so as the city council representative, I will raise it when it comes to the budget. The budget's not built. That's why we're going around, so we can hear before we start building the budget.
I just wanted to invite you to our eviction court watch, which we are at the court, down at the courthouse every Wednesday afternoon at 2, so that you can see what legal assistance when people facing eviction, what the impact is.
Good evening. My name is Mary Beth Murphy. I am a Board of Commissioner, represent District 4, but I'm also a resident of District 2. I want to piggyback on Katie's comments on the early morning hours of September 16th. I got a phone call that no person wishes to ever get. I answered the phone, and the person said, your son has been shot. Come here. I said, my son is in bed. I feel, what do you mean my son has been shot? I'm at this location. You were in his phone as mom. He's been shot. You need to hurry. I don't think he's going to make it. I'm like, it's not me. You need to find, my son is in the bed. It's not me. You need to find someone else in the phone and call them. It turned out it was my school son, Cousin. I had taught Cousin as a 7th grader and as an 8th grader. His mom was my coworker. He had just graduated. I celebrated his high school graduation with him at the Coliseum in June. I was called because he called me mom. And I was in his phone as mom because that's who I was to him. Not because I wasn't, I replaced, his biological mother, but because we had a very close relationship and I was like a second mom to him. I celebrated at the memorial in the park with his mom and his other school parents, some of my coworkers with whom he also had very close relationships as coaches and other things. And when I hear you say that one of the city's solutions to increasing safety is to pay police more, it raises for me a question around how do we know that that is going to improve safety? I absolutely believe that people have to be paid living wages. It's been a priority in the county. And so my comments are not about whether these important workers in our community deserve fair wages, because they absolutely do. And the research that I've encountered suggests that there are other tools in our tool belts to help improve safety, and that there is not a strong correlation between increasing wages of law enforcement and improving community safety. Don't get me wrong, like I said, we have to pay, we've heard, housing is unaffordable, groceries are unaffordable, people have to be able to pay their bills, but I think that we also, as Kay Brown's shared, we have to look at other tools for increasing community safety so no one else, a biological mom or a school mom, has to get another phone call like that. 75 murders and customs unsolved to still, 6 months later almost. 75 murders in our community last year, many of them unsolved. I think we have to be looking at other tools, and I want to call on council to really dig into that work and to back it with a financial investment, to help promote safety in our community. Thank you.
Good evening, and Dr. Wills, I appreciate that I talked to you. So you've heard this before, but I want to go on record. It's not for you, it's for the colleagues and for this council. I want to propose and ask the question about the potential of the city engaging an affordable housing study, and I'm going to tell you why. And you've heard a portion of this, and that is that what we've typically done, because all of these issues, in my opinion, kind of speak to, I kept looking, trying to see what's here, speak to people's situatedness. You got homelessness up here, safety, and all of those other things that are listed. But what has happened for those of us that live in the, and I'm going to speak up directly at the district I'm in, 27406, that while there's an incredible need for affordable housing, what has happened that has created a much larger problem for those of us that live in District 2, and particularly where I live, is that we concentrate affordable housing. That's a problem. And the reason I want to propose that the city consider a study is because no one community can bear the burden of affordable housing. And I'm not speaking against affordable housing, so I want to say that, Councilman Holston, Dr. Wells. What happens is that affordable housing should be scattered throughout the city. It should be in 2710, 27410, should be in 27407, 27405, whatever the zip codes are. It should be everywhere. Because number one, people have the right to live everywhere. And affordable housing is not just a need in the communities that are already designated poor, overburdened with all of the, when you concentrate a certain kind of housing, you add to the burden of poor schools. Because if you don't, if the income, how should I say, markers of the kind of affordable housing is there, because we know a lot of the conditions of our schools are tied to property taxes, then what happens is the schools that are situated in that end of the city are never going to change. They'll never improve. Because what we do is, affordable housing is really often a step up from people being homeless and living on with publicly assisted housing. And so I think that the city, as it approaches its next budget year, needs to consider how to look at where you are positioning affordable housing. And I don't think we've ever done a study for that. We do a lot of studies, parking lots, right, Eric, and things we don't need to study. But we need to study how, in fact, we situate the income circumstances for people that improve their community and not add to the circumstances of their community. So I think that is a legitimate budgetary item. It should be there, and it's one that should be prioritized so that we really begin to look at what we're doing. You know, Eric talks about we're trying to build 27406, and we want what everybody else wants. We don't want anything different. We want that the quality of all services that are available to our community mirror those on the opposite end of the county and of the city. And so I wanted to make sure that that gets positioned, because that's a priority.
Right. District 2 is an active district. You hear the comments, you're involved, you're concerned about the community. And I appreciate the fact that you are sharing what's on your heart, so we'll have something to deal with. Appreciate that. And we have a councilman that has come to join us.
Absolutely. And I would love to say a little bit about that last comment. You know, and Monica, you're right. When it comes to housing, everybody needs to have similar outcomes, so to speak. One challenge that we have with the affordable housing in all parts of the city is that if I drive into Lowe's on Randall Road or on Elm Eugene, or is that Home Depot, and I ask them to give me the build a house kit, and it costs me $50,000. Depending upon when I get to Elm Eugene, if I turn left or right, it's going to make a big difference in what that house is going to be valued at when I put it in the ground. That's the challenge we have. And that challenge comes from the other disparities that have happened in our community, whether it's the food deserts, the medical deserts. And so it's a larger problem than just having affordable homes. We have to make sure that the 27406, where I live, has all the amenities so that its value is as high as any other. We haven't gotten there yet. That's a long road, but we're committed to try our very best. You talk about having affordable housing making sure that you have the density. Now, I used to serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission, serve on the Board of Adjustments, and if there's one thing that gets people to come out to the community is hearing that there's going to be more density in their community. But we've got to have it. It's a math problem that I see, that we have a city with boundaries. The state legislature decided a long time ago that we cannot force annex. We should be able to go over and just grab somebody and bring them in. We can't do that anymore. So they have to volunteer to come in, and we say we accept you. So outside of them volunteering to come in, we have what we have, and so we have to become more dense. And folks don't like it. I actually sat in on a planning and zoning meeting this past Monday. And it was an amazing, amazing conversation to hear, because it's community off of Lewiston Road. And there are homes out there with acre lots. And they're looking at bringing out, I think, an eighth or seventh of an acre. And there was a challenge from the community. Now, of course, that'll probably come to council itself. But one of the tenets was that those smaller homes were going to have an impact on the larger lots, larger homes. Now, those smaller homes are going to be 5,000 to 6,000 square feet. I'm serious, 5,000 to 6,000 square feet. And the larger homes are 12,000 square feet. The smaller homes are 5,000 to 6,000 square feet. So it happens all over that folks don't like density in their areas, but we have to have it to survive. If we don't, that tax bill that continues to rise with inflation is going to be shared amongst the same people. And, same people, the price goes up, our cut goes up. So we got to find a way to squeeze in. I use the church analogy. You get to church a little bit late, never done it, right? And you get a little late, the usher takes you to the road. There's that one couple that got there 3 hours early, and they want to sit on the edge. Everybody else is kind of turning away from it because they don't want to squeeze in. But eventually, you squeeze in, and people kind of give you the side eye. But, 30 minutes later, you're passing candy back to each other because, and that's how we have to do in Greensboro to affect this density issue, to get more people in here, and to get the variety of homes that we're going to need to survive as a community.
So can I permit me to say, the reason I call it a study is because what we've effectively done in this, and it probably all over the country, but I'm just going to use our city, is we have concentrated a problem. Because when all of those homes of lesser value are all concentrated together, you know what matches those homes? Retail matches it. So all you get is Dollar General and Family Dollar, like Harry said. All you're going to get is the liquor stores and the other things that accommodate poor communities. Until we understand and give value, and unless we do it in the form of a study, for whatever reason, people don't appreciate something unless it's a study. And that doesn't mean that they're going to appreciate it, but at least you have evidence, you have data to be able to show. Until we wrap other structures around the hardest hit communities, the burden of poverty will never be removed from people. And we can do it. And I want to say that. And so, you say the 5,000 square foot home or whatever. And I'm talking about, what I'm talking about when I say 27406 and below Gate City Boulevard. So here's the point, is we have to not only invest in looking at it and studying it as a problem that can be solved, because you can go back to a report that was published in 1959 in the City of Greensboro. And the problems that they were talking about then in 1959 are the same ones they're talking about right now. Right. And what we haven't committed to is not only studying it as a problem, but studying it from the standpoint of a commitment to solve it, because it's a problem that can be solved. So I don't think you and I are disagreeing. Right? Yeah, I think we're really essentially saying the same thing, but I really want that as a budget item.
Obviously, I'm in whole agreement with Monica, but I think that right now we have an opportunity in District 2 that you don't have in too many other places. You have that entire 3-acre parcel, with the grocery store, with a mixed-use development, that right now has a minimum required of 20% affordable housing component due to the hard requirement for the grant. What is preventing us from upping that to like a 40 or 50%? More is actually more, right? But this would be, all HUD wants is a minimum of 20. Nobody ever put a maximum. You can put a maximum. And that would achieve exactly what Monica is talking about, because this would start, you would be downtown, but you would be in District 2, You would have, people would have access to not only transportation, because God knows downtown is better served than any other thing. And depending on what district, those dogs are obviously going to be placed very differently. Some people prefer pickleball to affordable housing. But in this particular case, affordable housing, as you can tell, all the dogs are, that's pretty telling. So I think that right now you've got a mixed-use development that's coming in with all the right ingredients. It's got everything. And now the city may participate in the parking, depending. If the city is going to participate, there is nothing preventing you from having a requirement for affordable housing. So let's say it's 200 apartments, but can it be 100? But it can be 120 as opposed to just 40.
We have to be more creative. You're exactly right. We have to study it, make sure we understand the problem, make sure we can commit the funds to it, and then we have to be much more creative. This housing issue isn't just for our community, but it doesn't mean that we can't find a solution to it. So bringing folks like you all together and having more of the conversations is important. I want to pivot just a little bit. I came in and we're talking about community safety and talking about how to address it. And, as Dr. Wells said, making sure that we have a minimum number of law enforcement officers to make sure that we can patrol the streets and arrest the bad guys is important. But something else we've also done on council just recently is we funded those community-based organizations. It was Gate City Coalition. And now we've added it's the community safety, AWOL. AWOL has a piece of that. The Peace Corps. I'm not sure if we funded the street ballers, but we have to meet people where they are. If you listen to the chief, he said that probably 70% of those 74 shootings were familiar. People knew each other. So we have to find a way to get in touch individuals. We can't do it from a third party, with a little laser or something. We have to do it one-on-one, person-to-person, and it's so much harder to do that. But we made the commitment, and I'm sure, and I hope that we will continue to make that commitment in next year's budget to include more community-based organizations, to touch more and more of our citizens, so that, if you care about something, then you care about it. And right now, we've lost the sense of caring with one another. I don't know about you all, but when I grew up and I did something stupid, I'd get on my bicycle, go 5 miles down the road, and do something stupid. By the time I got home, the real story was there. And I'll tell you, I'm old enough that there were no cell phones, there was no internet, there was no satellite, there was no nothing. It's just that people knew people. And people knew that I was so-and-so's son or brother or something else, and they would share the information. Nowadays, we don't even know our next door neighbor's heart.
That's right.
And two of them are just strangers. We used to borrow a cup of sugar. Now I wouldn't trust anything because I don't even know who you are. We've gotten away from all that stuff. I'm not talking about, the good old days. I'm just simply saying that we need to make sure that we get to know each other. And that's where those community-based organizations are going to be so important. Because I was out there in my office, my day office out on Summit. 3 weeks ago, there was a shooting. It was the 6 shots in a row, 6, 7. I heard them. I ducked. I was that close. Bessemer and Summit. The family dog, that new one. Right. Was right there. So that Arthur Durham and the Office of Community Safety sponsored a session. And so he was there, I was there, folks from those community-based organizations were there. And it was just amazing because I'll be very honest, I'll be very transparent with you. When I talked to Keith Slade with Street Ballers, and he's talking about doing midnight basketball. In my mind, I'm being very transparent, so don't beat me up over this. I'm thinking, well, it's something to distract the youth. To get them into the gym, and they're playing basketball, so they're not out shooting each other. Right. And he said, no. He says, I said, well, what is it? He says, well, everybody can't play at the same time. I said, okay. He says, well, and what that means is that there's a 5-on-5, a 3-on-3 going on, and you're not playing. So the real game is when I pull up next to you and start having that one-on-one conversation. It blew my mind. I'll be honest, I didn't realize that was how it really, really works. That it's not about who's playing, it's about who's not playing. And I can connect with you. And they said that they had an event over at Shannon Woods Church, and that some of the gangbangers came in, kind of dropped in, unexpected. They happened to have a set of uniforms, and out of that, they played, and they got saved. Connection. They touched somebody. That's somebody who's going to think the next time before it's time to pull the trigger or to get upset about something. That's how we're really going to get this. We got to get to the community-based organizations. We got to get to know each other. Once again, we've gotten away from it, and we can do better. I'm sorry, I apologize.
Those of you who have been with me through the years, that's been one of my main things. Know your neighbors. We are social beings who were made to communicate with each other. The example I always use, if you don't know your neighbor, somebody, you go on vacation and you don't tell anybody your business, and somebody comes up to your house, steals all your furniture, you think it's somebody that's supposed to be there. Then your neighbor thinks that because you haven't communicated. Say, yeah, I'm going out of town, so I'm trying to watch out, see what's going on over here. So we need to get in touch with each other. I just like to say that one of the things that we've been dealing with over here in East Greensboro is getting from one side of town to the other side of town on our bus rides. I hope you have been listening to the news. Beginning March 1st, there will be a purple bus line that goes all the way from East Greensboro to West Greensboro in no matter how many minutes is it? 15 minutes. And the way we use it now, you go to the depot and then everybody has to get on another bus and then go back out. So this goes, the purple line will go all the way across town. And that's a real blessing for us over here to get over to the other side of town, because a lot of people work over there and it takes too long to get there. So that's one of the pluses that we have, and I'm excited about the District 2.
I could real quick. I just want to say, so I hear what you're saying about knowing your neighbors, but when I think when we're talking about all these evictions, that's going to be a hard thing to do. But further than that is, Hugh, you told a great story, but I think that if we're going to talk about the Office of Community Safety, maybe we should look at creating the Department of Community Safety instead of having an office, and actually fund it in the same right that we do the police department. Maybe not to that scale, but let's be serious about it if we're going to be serious about it. Because I think that when we look at GC Jack and Be Hard and LEAD and violence prevention, if we take that serious, I think that we'll see a different Greensboro. And one where, if we think about it, some of this eviction stuff comes from a court system that in Guilford County you got to spend 283 days is how long it takes to get from the beginning of a traffic ticket to a resolution. So that's approximately 10 months that you got to go to court. So that's one day. And let's say you're sick, so you miss work one day, and then you're sick, and you miss another day. It just perpetuates itself. So if we're going to talk about it, I think we should be serious about funding that office into a department.
I think we have time for just one more comment, if anybody has one. I have one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just there have been multiple studies that have been done over the course of the past 10 years or so, but especially following 2020 and the Black Lives Matter protests. I'm slightly appalled that one of the main comments we've gotten about having a safer city is increasing police salaries for retention and hiring. It's good, we need law enforcement officers, but there's so much more that can be done to help build up communities, form connections between people, and give them a social support network so that they don't fall into poverty. detrimental to houselessness and contribute to violence in our city. That's all.
I think that's where we're going to conclude tonight. If you have any other questions or concerns that you think about later, please fill out one of the surveys or please check out our website. All our contact information is there.